Howdy, everyone. Welcome back. Scranton Strangler here as always. I appreciate y'all. Obviously, we sit here multiple times a week and we talk about America's favorite sport, football, college or NFL. We discuss it. So if you haven't already, make sure to hit that like, follow, share, subscribe button at that top. And so you can continue to join us week in and week out. But today we're actually going to be talking about college football. It is Saturday, week 4 of the college football season. And we've got a couple early games out I wanted to get out of the way. I will talk about the 2:30 games as well. And then I'll actually have another podcast a little bit later tonight to talk about the games 6 p.m. and later. I didn't have time to do them all, unfortunately. And I wanted to make sure I got these out before the games actually started. So we'll kind of run it off right off the bat. 11 o'clock games. We've got Southern Miss traveling to Alabama in Tuscaloosa. It's going to be interesting, especially when Alabama's favored by like 38 points. I think that they'll definitely win. I don't actually, however, have them covering more than 38 points. But let me kind of explain why. So the conference, Alabama's really struggled, if you will, over the season in running defense, just in defense in general. It's not just because they don't have the talent, because obviously they're one of the most talented depth chart, from first string all the way down to, fourth string. They probably have some of the most talent in college football. But what's happening is they've been having injuries. They're very injury plagued this season. They're going to have 6, I believe it is. Maybe no, actually I think it's 8. Yeah, it was 6-1. Yeah, I think they've got a lot of starters, a lot of freshman starters in that run defense in that front 7, if you will. So I think 6 of them, if I'm not mistaken, are going to be freshmen. Yeah, 6 of them. I finally saw my notes down there. So 6 freshmen down there. They're still going to roll. They're still going to win, but that's why you don't have them, winning by those 50 points like those spreads have been. That's why it's kind of a lower one this week at only 38. But Alabama, they've struggled just a little bit on defensively, but obviously they have one of the best offenses, I believe, in the top 3 passing total offenses in the country. But in this game, Alabama has won the last 6 in Southern Miss, so again, I think Alabama is definitely going to roll in this one. They've got a good quarterback who's played decent all year for Southern Miss. Of course, I'm not talking about Tua, but Abraham, he's averaging 330 yards a game. He's got 5 touchdowns on the year, but he does have 3 interceptions. But this just kind of shows you that he can sling it. In the conference that he's in, Conference USA, he is the passing leader of all teams. So I'm not taking them to actually cover that 38 points. I actually have them winning 37. So I'm not going to let them, Vegas play tricks on me. I don't think it'll be that one. I'm actually having Alabama win this one 57-20. So I'm only having them win by 37 points. Got to play that line just a little bit. Now, if we're moving on down, going from Tuscaloosa, going down to Baton Rouge. The game's not played in Baton Rouge, but that's the team that we're mainly going to be talking about in Louisiana State University. LSU travels to Vanderbilt to take on them, to the Vandies, where they're a 24-point favorite. Really, all I have to say about this game is Joe Burrow. He's second in the nation in passing. He's got 11 touchdowns on the year versus only 2 interceptions. He's also one of the few quarterbacks on any type of list, Heisman list, top 10 quarterback list, whatever you want to do, that's actually played a decent team and played a good defense. So all those other quarterbacks are just cupcaking it essentially right now. Now, it's obviously not their fault. They don't pick the teams that they play against. But I got to give this one to Joe Burrow. I love the kid. I think he's going to roll on Vanderbilt. I've actually have them winning 38-10. So I am going to be taking the 24-point cover. I think they will, and they're going to win 38-10. LSU, keep it rolling. Then we're going to move down back over to where we were on that southeast coast, if you will. We're going to be talking about Tennessee, and they're going to be traveling to Florida to take on the Gators, if you will. To be 100% honest, it's almost like a trap game for me. I could definitely see this game going into overtime. I could see this game being upset by Tennessee. Believe it or not, I know they've had their struggles. Obviously, they lost to Georgia Southern, which was probably one of the worst losses of a decade. That's kind of dating back to almost. I don't think it's quite as bad as Michigan losing to Appalachian State, but Tennessee. I mean, y'all need to do something. Y'all got it finally rolling last week, where y'all put a dominant win down finally. But then you end up losing to BYU in overtime again for the following. So very wishy-washy, the Tennessee team, and especially wishy-washy when you talk about Florida. Florida had the horrific game. It was pretty bad, but they actually escaped it in week 0 actually against Miami. So they squeaked that one out. They've got a hurt quarterback and Felipe Franks. Then they put out a 45-0 game whenever the spread was 45. I don't know if y'all remember that stream that I had, but I was thoroughly impressed. But then they came out last week, and I just didn't see that same fire, that same team that showed in that 45-0 victory. Felipe Franks, like I said, is out, so they will have Kyle Trask to lead the team. I just don't. I'm gonna pull on Tennessee for this one, not to win the game, even though I definitely think that they absolutely could, even in overtime. But I am gonna take Florida to win this game 27-24. So I'm bypassing the 14-point favor. I don't think Florida has it in them to beat them by 14. I think Tennessee's finally somewhat caught a groove, and I'm, again, not saying that they're going to win, but I don't think they're going to lose by 14 points. So I've got Florida winning 27-24. Moving on to the Ole Miss. Ole Miss is going to be hosting Cal, the California Golden Bears. But Ole Miss, I know they've had a kind of a rough 5 years, if you will, as far as coaches getting in trouble, the whole school getting in trouble, players getting in trouble. So I feel for you fans. I know it's tough, especially when, if I think they're finally eligible to start playing bowl games again, but that had to have been tough. So all the fans out there that held on to the team, that say even if they went undefeated, it doesn't mean anything. You're the true fans right there. So California, I'm sorry, it opens up as a 3-point favorite in this game. And I think so. Everyone's been talking about Cal's defense and how the secondary, especially, is going to be is very special. They're a very special group. They're very nationally ranked. I think that the issue there is going to be they're facing an Ole Miss team now. It doesn't matter who's coaching them. It doesn't matter who's throwing the ball. They're one of those teams that always can sling it. They can throw the ball. Ole Miss, they need to get the passing game going, though. They really haven't over this year, but I'm kind of looking to this game to be that game where, yes, this is the where they're going to do it, albeit against a good secondary, but Elijah Moore, their top wide receiver in Ole Miss, has caught 18 catches on the year. The next wide receiver that's up that has the most catches is 4. So clearly they have a favorite wide receiver, and it's just a matter of can Cal double team that guy or just take him out of the game, pull a page from the old Belichick playbook and taking the other team's best player out of the game. That's what he does best. That's why he's had so much success in the National Football League. So I think that they're going to try to do that. I just don't know if they're going to. So I'm actually going to be taking Ole Miss in this game, believe it or not. I got a buddy, Andy Lawrence, out there if he's paying attention. Just for you, buddy. This is just for you. So I'm going to be taking Ole Miss to win this game, even though they're not even favored, 34-27. Now on to the big one. Big one in the Big Ten is going to be Michigan Wolverines traveling to Wisconsin to take on the Badgers. Michigan obviously didn't play last week. They had a bye week, which is definitely in their favor. Um, Extra practice, all that kind of stuff. I get 2 weeks of game planning for one specific team. Um, my best player on the field today is going to be Jonathan Taylor, running back. Dude's just a monster. I think Patterson, he's struggled a little bit so far this year, quarterback for Michigan. It's not that he's making a lot of mistakes, but I think he's holding on to the ball a lot, and he's almost looked confused. He's looked like he doesn't really know what he's wanting to do a little bit. So he's holding on to the ball and he's having to throw it away, or he's holding on to the ball and he's taking a sack. So hopefully he's had these 2 weeks to kind of prepare and get ready for the number one defense in college football so far. They're ranked nationally. They haven't even had a point scored on them so far this year. So averaging 0 points against them. So pretty tough, and they've got especially in the Big Ten, probably one of the best offenses in the Big Ten. Led behind rock star running back Jonathan Taylor. He can run it, he can catch it. I'm so excited for this guy to go into the NFL. I think he's going to be a stud. So now backing up Cone backing up. Jonathan Taylor is quarterback Cone for the Washington Badgers, and he's had very decent, and very safe quarterback play. He's 45 of 59. He's thrown for 564 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. So that's something that, so it just shows you that you can't really stack the box on this guy, because the quarterback's playing pretty well too. So look out for, if they tend to do that, they're going to try to get Jonathan Taylor open up in the passing game, because on the gear he's gotten 3 passes for 80-something yards and a touchdown, so he can definitely run with that too. So in this game, Wisconsin's actually favored by 3 points. It's really tough. This is a very, very tough game. It's a very good game. I'm super excited. Number 11 taking on number 13. Defense galore. It could be, a 6-10 game at the end of this, but I'm gonna go a little bit more on the points. I know I probably shouldn't because of the defense, but I'm gonna be taking Wisconsin in this game. I love Wisconsin. They're gonna win 30-24. So let me know what y'all think about that. If y'all have any objections, comments about that. If you think a particular player is going to show out, let me know. Because I know Jonathan Taylor is going to be the key to this game for Wisconsin. So that's going to be it for the 11 o'clock games. I'll go ahead and run through the 2:30 games real quick, and then, like I said earlier in the podcast, that for the 6 o'clock games, I'll do those a little bit closer. I wasn't as prepared today. My AC went out in my house, and I'm having to stay at my in-laws' house, so that I can, not live in 90-degree weather with my 3-month-old baby. So, so going to the 2:30 games, we do have Miami of Ohio, rock stars there, going to be traveling to Columbus to take on the Buckeyes. 39-point favorites. I'm just ready for Ohio State to finally play a team. I know a lot of teams haven't played that, so I can't really just single out the Buckeyes for that, but goodness, I'm just ready for real football to start. So that's why I get so excited about these games like Michigan and Wisconsin. Excuse me. Whew. Or some of those top 10 matchups, a week or two ago. So very few. We'll once as the year goes in and keeps going, we'll definitely find some more meaningful games. But going into the Ohio State Buckeyes game, I think they'll roll 52-10. Overall, I think they've had a lot of good team wins. A lot of people are very high on Justin Fields, and I think he's a great quarterback. I just haven't really seen enough of him yet. You can point that to, well, again, they're playing cupcake schedules. They're playing cupcake teams so far, so he hasn't needed to showcase his abilities, things like that. Well, That's true. I mean, I get that argument, but you want to get your quarterback rolling as much as possible early in the season. I don't know, and you never know whenever you're going to find one of those teams that you're not expecting shows up, and he hasn't been prepared for this kind of close game situation, because I'm sure all these teams, as much as they don't want to admit it, they expect to win by 30, 40, 50 points, in some of these games. I'm sure that's a narrative that goes into their head. So I'm taking Ohio State in this game. They're going to cover the 39 points. I'm taking them 52-10 to win it. Justin Fields, show me what you're made of. I'm watching you this weekend. Next is going to be Auburn, another both top 25 team matchups. Both have one loss on the season. So you've got Auburn University. I'm sorry, I said that they had a loss, and they haven't had a loss. They should have lost week 1 against Oregon, but Herbert just didn't want to win, I guess. I don't know. So Auburn is undefeated, top 10 team, going to be taking on A&M. Kellen Mond, they were a top 10 team, at least in my poll, and then they, pardon my language, kind of shit the bed against Clemson. Didn't really do too much, didn't show out. So they recovered last week. They looked very, very good, and they looked to keep things rolling. Kellen Mond, man, I was so disappointed in that Clemson game. But again, that's really what this team looks when they lose. They lose to really good teams. You look at the last few losses on their schedule, and it's to Clemson, it's to Alabama, because they play them, those two teams, a year after year. Lost to them they played 4 ranked teams last season, and they went 2-2. Two of the losses being Clemson and Alabama. Now Clemson only being a 28-26 point, so only a 2-point loss. They did get beat a little bit by Alabama, but it was closer than the scoreboard led on. And then the two teams that they won, LSU being that 7 overtime victory. It was like the longest game of my life. And then they actually beat a ranked Kentucky team. Had a very stout defense under Mark Stoops. So A&M, they play good against good teams. They just play a lot of good teams, and that's, unfortunately, that's kind of what has killed them a little bit. I make a complaint earlier in the podcast about teams playing cupcake games and playing too many easy walk-on schedules. The exact opposite of that for Texas A&M. You're playing too good of teams. You're killing yourself at the beginning of the year with two setting yourself up for 2 losses right off the bat at the top two teams in the nation. It's just really hard to recover, and if you can't even play for an SEC championship, you're definitely not going to play for a college football championship. So, not complaining. I love the good games. I love the big ranked games. Just Texas A&M just needs to learn how to finish them, to win those big games, because they've got pretty much every other team except Clemson and Alabama. So they just need to work on getting those 2 teams down, which I think everybody in the country pretty much is at this point. So A&M is favored by 4 points in this game. I'm going to be taking A&M, and I think that they'll score more than that 4-point lead. I think they're going to win 31-14. Bo Nix, I love the kid. I think he's got phenomenal energy. I think he's a great leader. He's a guy that you can rally behind. I just don't trust him against this caliber of a defense. He has an accuracy issue, especially on the run when he's trying to make a play. He gets excited and kind of throws it out there, and he's had a couple turnovers, unfortunately, on that one, especially when he's moving outside the pocket. So I'm going to be taking A&M in this game, and I'm going to be taking them to cover their points. They're 4 points, 31-14, Texas A&M. Go Ags. So moving down to the next one is going to be UCF. It's going to be traveling to Pittsburgh to take on the Panthers. They are actually going to be favored by 11 points, 10.5 favorites. Now, the biggest question in this one is, which quarterback is UCF going to play? Are they going to be playing Gabriel, who has started out this year as the backup, but every time he's come in, he's looked like a starter? Or are they going to play Brandon Wimbush, a transfer from Notre Dame, who lost the spot to his backup? Is he going to transfer somewhere else and lose the spot to that backup? Is this another Tate Martell situation? So you never know on that one. But both quarterbacks are both great players. I think Gabriel is a better passer. As I've said in this podcast multiple times, Brandon Wimbush, he's done a good job this season, but he's struggled in the past. He played 20 games for Notre Dame, and his completion percentage was around 50, 50.8 if I'm not mistaken, and like 12. I'm trying to remember his touchdown to interception ratio. It was he either had 12 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, or it was 20 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. I can't remember exactly. I'm mixing two other people's stats. But either way you look at it, that's not a good touchdown to interception ratio. That's not a good completion percentage. He has run the ball very effectively and quite well. But again, whenever you're looking at the quarterback situation, you want a guy who can sling the ball, and that this Gabriel has shown you no reasons to not start him. Now, Josh Heupel hasn't actually named a starter yet, so we don't really know, but just all eyes and everything's pointing to Gabriel taking that starting reins tonight versus Pittsburgh. I think, like I said earlier, it's a 11-point favorite, but I'm actually going to be taking UCF in this game. Either way, it doesn't matter what quarterback they play. 47-7. UCF has an underrated defense, and I think Pittsburgh just hasn't been able to really get anything going this year. So I'm taking them 47-7. UCF. The Knights, hopefully they'll get some love. We'll do another podcast about if they should be considered nationally for the college football playoff, which, hey, I think they should. But, again, another podcast for that one. That'll take me a while to explain. Next one, we're going to be finishing out on the last two games that are going on at 2:30, and that's going to be Washington taking on BYU. We've got a ranked Washington team. They're actually going to be favored by 7 points to win this game. Jacob Eason, I think he's a great player. He had, they just had that one bad game a couple weeks ago. Totally threw me for a loop. Did not think that they would be losing that game, but they did, and they just have to grow from that. Washington favored by 7 points. I do think that they will win that game. BYU has had a very tough season so far. They have beaten multiple teams that a lot of people didn't think they would. They've had like 2 or 3 weeks in a row where either they've had a comeback victory in week 1 and they had to rush to do that, or they've had 2 games in a row the last 2 weeks where it was a very emotional game that they had to win in overtime. So I don't think that they can carry that too much longer. I think Washington, I think they'll be in the game for a little bit, but Washington is ultimately going to pull away. I have them winning 38-21 Washington. Go Eason. Last but not least is going to be SMU taking on the TCU Horned Frogs. We look at the number 2 defense in the entire college football nation, taking on Shane Buechele, a former Big 12 quarterback. He played for Texas for a year or so and then lost that job, but transfers to SMU, and he's been trying to sling it around a little bit. I am going to be taking, however, though, TCU in this game. I think it's going to be 34-17. Like I said earlier, Shane Buechele, he has done a pretty good job at slinging it around. He's gotten, he's 65 of 98. 871 yards, which isn't too shabby. He's got 5 touchdowns, but then you look at that interception, which he has 3 on the year. So you want that touchdown to interception ratio to be a little bit lower than that, because once those numbers get up at the end of the year, if he's on that pace, the same pace as he's on now, you can definitely tell that he's 3. Anytime you have over 10 interceptions, that's not good, and that's well over 10 interceptions if you go off of that scale that it's been. So, but that's going to be everything for me today. Again, that one I'm going to have TCU winning 34-17. I appreciate everybody for stopping by. I will be on a little bit later today to talk about the 6 p.m. games, because there's a big one in there that I definitely want to discuss and go into a little bit more detail, but didn't have the time and resources like I usually do whenever I'm in Scranton Strangler's lair, of course. So appreciate everybody for stopping by, though. I really do. I love all y'all. Y'all are the reason why I do this. I just love talking about football, and it's always fun to know that people want to hear me talk about it too. So y'all have a good one. Scranton Strangler out. Have a good one.